If they lock TK, I'm thinking it's Senna TK though.
Well,
Good.
locked in. Good option there. Senna TK. You can also still technically pair it with Jinx. It was one of the most common pairings as well. Last split when Jinx was super meta. This was a bot lane they ran a lot, but there you go. Big brain Azael calling it out.
Nicely done.
I mean, this was a Danny special as well, right? Like Senna, people talk a lot about his Jinx, but he has a pentakill on Senna. This is one of the champions that he was really well known for when he came in. EG had been dominating with this pairing, so I think it's actually really intelligent. It's been a weird day, right? Play extreme comfort. Play what play what you can really kind of get in that comfort zone with.
Yeah, and I think the idea of champion pool issues because you don't play, say, the early game meta, which is the kind of flip side to the late game one. Also, it's worth questioning, like, is that what's best for my player? If he's an insane late game team fighter, would you rather go to the A or B tier off the S tier of late game? And I think that's a reasonable way to go instead of saying, oh, you should play Kalista and Drave and being like, well, you're better late game team fighter, so play Senna, play Jinx, go to these other options.
How do we feel about the Vi getting locked in here?
I'm not loving it with the Tahm Kench already there.
I'm hating it. I am not convinced. I am the opposite of convinced. I am dissuaded just because of Tahm Kench's existence.
So I will say, at least there is already a pretty good dive buddy. You have Sivir to speed you up. You have the Ahri to dive in there with the ultimate alongside the Vi. So if TSM's option to actually deal with the Senna TK is full overload the backline, lots and lots of dive, then I think it makes more sense.
Okay.
If it's like just this and then some scaling dudes who are going to play far back, then I don't really love it. So I am interested to see what else is going to come through. But Lissandra was just snap picked up. They grabbed that immediately after the Vi was locked in. So really going to be happy with that answer. It feels like they are using this almost more like as a peeling tool than as a diving tool with the Sivir there. If Vi or Ahri are going to dive in, they get ulted up by the Lissandra, use that kind of defensively. I think it could be very, very powerful. And I'm expecting double enchanter bans here. Probably Lulu getting taken away alongside, but Ornn instead.
Yeah, gets rid of Solo's Ornn, by far his most played and best champion since he stepped into the TSM lineup. I do like the bans by both teams so far. The Yuumi helping with that kind of lockdown goal that you're talking about. If you just start attaching to either the Ahri or the Vi. And then finally also the Trundle, which is a known annoying pick against the Vi.
And I really like the Ornn ban here because TSM have already showed they don't care what the counter pick is going to be, right? Like back in the first draft, he had to lane against an Aatrox and there was a Trundle to sap his stats and he still played Ornn just fine.
Yeah.
So they're not really feeling like they're getting a good counter punch if they want to save that for last, so they'll get it out of the way instead. Lee Sin locked in for Inspire.
It's very interesting. The read from TSM is that EG's diving, right? Because they banned Nocturne. They're saying, all right, you have Lissandra, you have the Senna to actually enable the dive with the ultimate, so they ban out the Nocturne. Gonna be interested to see where Impact goes, because Impact's his fifth pick. He's not really known as a guy who's gonna go to those extreme counterpick angles.
Yeah.
If it is just like a Scion, we're probably just seeing Aatrox into it again. But if he goes Aatrox, this would be interesting, because that was what was such a challenge, I think, for him at times, to kind of have this matchup and really try to stretch for one of the aggressive counterpicks.
Yeah, it felt like in the C9 series, he was picking Aatrox and getting countered by it. Here, it's just taken away, so we'll have to see what's in the back pocket of Impact. He has played some
Does he
different...
go Kennen?
Well, I mean, technically Impact has everything in the sense because he's played it forever. He had a lot of plays. That top die meta was basically Gnar Kennen. He played both sides of that and do extremely well. So could go for it. Instead goes for the Renekton. Not a surprise there. Very strong frontliner.
I mean, you're talking about the importance of comfort picks and going back to the things you know. I feel like just being a professional top laner for the sheer amount of time Impact has, you're going to have 100 games on Renekton.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just been such a staple for so long. This is something that any top laner that's been around for any amount of time has reps on.
Absolutely. And I mean, this game just looks like it's going to be a brawl, right? Like, I think, when you look back to the previous games, it was more, okay, TSM maybe has some scaling advantages. Sure, there's the Sivir to farm here, but it's not Sivir plus an Enchanter. Like, this is just a couple of mid-gamey comps that are going to slam into each other. Ahri wants to dive, Lissandra wants to dive, Lee Sin and Vi, Renekton and Aatrox. These are all very similar champions in how they want to do it and how they want to play the game.
That's what game 2 was too. Two very similar team comps, same time this around. It's just about who has the better engagement.
The crowd's ready to go. I'm ready to go. TSM and EG ready to go, tied up 1-1 here in this series. Isaac, I want to go back to what you were talking about when I said I don't like the Vi pick. You said as long as she has buddies, you're okay with it. Is Rakan and Ahri and Aatrox, is this enough of a buddy system to go in with her for this to be good? Or you think it's just not got enough oomph?
I mean, they're going full dive, right? So they did draft to what I was talking about. Whether or not it's going to work, I think, is another question. I do think that Lissandra and Tahm Kench make it complicated, right? If you're diving in and you're getting AoE rooted up and ulted defensively, and Tahm Kench has that defensive ult, like there's not a lot of good targets. It's really just kind of Danny, or potentially if you hit a charm on someone else, you can maybe burst them down. But like TSM is really gonna want to get to Danny. It's gonna be up to the rest to peel for him. Inspired can kick defensively. You have Lissandra ult defensively. You have Tahm Kench. Like there's a lot of tools here that do make it tough, but TSM's comp only goes one way.
Yeah, for the most part, there's not any true tanks in this game. Tahm Kench technically is, but he doesn't get the gold influx, even as a farming TK, to realistically get as tanky as like the Ornn was getting last game, or the full tank Sejuani and whatnot. So in this case, anyone who gets chain CC'd up is going to die. Lissandra can jump on you with the Renekton follow-up, and you can kill the Aatrox often through that if he's not able to get his kind of in-combat sustain because he's locked down the whole time.
Okay, let's see where our junglers are going to head early on. Vi and Lee Sin, two junglers that both have the ability to get things done early, affect these lanes, punish anybody who's playing too aggro. Spica just going buff to buff here on the Vi. It looks like red up towards his own blue. Inspired opting to go for more of a full clear of his own jungle.
Yep, Inspired just going to be clearing that out pretty quickly here on the Lee Sin. Pretty standard stuff. Most Lee Sins are just going 6 camp clear into Scuttle, and that kind of gets you towards enough gold for pickaxe, I do believe, is the recall that a lot of people are liking. But going to be interested to see how this top lane does go. Impact, has been kind of getting the better of it so far in this series. Of course, he had the advantageous matchups. This one, from most top laners that I talk to, do feel it is pretty skill-based, that it is one of those matchups that can really go either way.
Those are the best.
Exactly. I think it's an opportunity here for Solo to really see what he can get done.
I think the other thing for this as well is how the junglers are going to play into it, both going bot to top clears. There hasn't been a ton of jungle activity, if I remember correctly, from the previous 2 games. It felt more like dragon situations. So we'll have to see where that's going to go, because so many of those fights, they were already kind of sloppy in the sense that you would have a great team fight from someone, they would absolutely position perfectly, like tactical, and then the next team fight would get a little too aggressive, come in at a funny angle and get taken out. And so it does feel like most of this has come down to the mid to late game team fighting, and that will put a lot of pressure on people like Tactical this time around. Make sure he stays alive.
Jojo going in after Maple. Inspired shows up right behind him. Spica's ready to try to spoil the gank, and Maple will barely live, but he's got 100 HP and no flash.
Very well done. Just goes in, lands that root. Inspired can follow up, even though you're going to tank the charm there. Inspired comes through, lands that damage to get the flash down, so it's going to be an early TP, very likely. We'll have to be committed. Going to be interested to see if Jojo wants to TP back himself, or if he's just going to walk it out. It does look like it is going to be a TP, so he's going to TP back. He's going to try to hard shove this and make sure that Maple is forced to respond. But often, even though the first gank here obviously went well and Maple is put down a little bit, it's that next gank that is going to matter so much more now that both these mid laners have no teleport.
It's also about if you can get it before Ahri hits 6, because even post 6, you're going to have a very clean chain CC combo to make sure that she's not able to just kind of ult out of there.
Yeah.
You can see
really
the Lissandra ult is relatively slow, actually. You've seen people be able to buffer things during that kind of animation when the blue particles start swirling around you. You can kind of get an Ahri dash off before that actually locks you in place, and that does put pressure on the Inspired to kind of be there ready to go immediately.
Okay. TSM are deciding they want to scrap a little here in bottom lane as well. As you can see, Chime jump in. Inspired now back up towards that top side of the map. Jojo's coming around here too. Solo will be forced away from his turret. He senses something is not right here. As bottom side, Chime goes in. But Danny flashing to get to safety. That's neither summoner spell available for the EG AD carry anymore.
Yeah, the previous little hop in there, they did actually force out his heal because he was worried about Ignite coming through. He wanted to heal before any potential Ignite, assuming that it could have been that all in. Now they're able to actually get that flash out. This is a trade of flash for flash. Impact on the proxy. I'm just going to be looking to reset as Inspired is gone. Jojo heading back towards mid lane as well.
End up denying about a half a wave, it looked like, maybe a full wave with the pressure from the Lee Sin and Lissandra hovering topside. Well played by Solo to sniff that one out. They, of course, also got vision of Spica as he was going for that gank. So EG bot lane does lose more summoners, but as long as they don't die, you could argue that that was actually a better play for EG, actually denying some farm into what is a close matchup.
Ooh, Spica finds Jojo looking towards that top side yet again. And now with Maple moving up here as well, Jojo's got to back away. Gets spotted by the Scryer's Bloom, so he takes the claw over the wall, just make sure he doesn't get caught on any sort of a greedy recall.
Yeah, absolutely. And Spica just actually catching him out there with the sweeper. He saw his shadow over the wall. That's why he's able to buffer that ball breaker. Comes in, gets a little bit of a chunk there onto Jojo, making sure that they want to defend Solo.
Get out of my jungle!
Yeah. I mean, the roam so far, you know, it has been inspired ganks mid. That gets you mid prio. Now you start moving around the map, right? And they're really trying to get active here and see what they can get done in those side lanes. But TSM has been equal to the task thus far.
The Jojo roams are something that has been something he's been focusing more on this split. It was talked about a little bit by the coaching staff about how his individual lane dominance compared to Spring Split has not been quite as high. He was still top 3, top 4 most of the laning statistics, but it wasn't number 1 like he was in Spring because he's less focused on his own lane and more about how he can try and snowball this game, like repeatedly visiting
Here
top
we go
lanes.
again.
All right.
Level 6 Renekton, it's a classic.
Where's the dive? They got to execute it right. You do not want to botch these. Solo's low, but he's kiting them out. Can't get Q3 in time. So EG, first blood, 6 minutes in.
Really well played there by EG. Clean stuff. Impact has the rage stack, just walks up, empowered stun there, comes through. No real ability to outplay that for Solo. But Solo, being that intelligent weak side player, held his TP so he won't lose the full wave. And now it's the cross play. No summoners on Danny.
Okay, Chime's gonna take the aggro first, and Danny just explodes. Chime goes back in, but Vulcan picks him up, so it's 1-for-1 down here. But Maple wants to make it go TSM's way. Thick skin from Vulcan keeps him alive a little bit longer. Now he's trying to go get another lick. Vulcan got a kill on Maple. Spica might just die here now too. Inspired goes in. Tactical's gonna die next. That was an absolute buffet from TSM.
5-1 kills for EG now. They just collapse on that play after Vulcan basically turns it on his own. Senna TK is such a difficult lane to die.
They run that tweet. Yes. He's piss chilling at T1 turret. Let's go.
Oh no.
Just chilling in TSM low right now.
Yes.
Oh my god, they all come in for the dive. It's a 4-man dive. That's a tanky Tahm Kench though. This is not easy to actually take him down. What a disaster there for TSM. That's a rough one. 5-1. It's not even 8 minutes in. It's a 2K lead for EG.
Yeah, we'll take another look at this play.
Okay,
coming
let's
in.
do it.
It's not 6 yet, which is when this dive becomes legitimately impossible. So I understand with no sums what they're thinking to kill Danny, but it's a full health Tahm Kench afterwards. So while you're able to 100 to 0 him, that's great stuff, but you have to respect the fact that Tahm Kench is so hard to kill at this point. Of course, Maple's coming in, he has ult, but he hasn't even popped thick skin yet. There's just no way that you're really going to kill him 100 to 0.
Yeah.
Even if they got that, it's probably a 1-for-1 trading back, and it's taken so long that you can already see Jojo and Inspired moving down from the play that they just made on the top side of the map.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think just really not having the right calculation on how much damage they're going to have, and now it's the top side. Impact in trouble here.
Okay, Spica going for the gank on this one. Impact wants to try to turn it around, gets 2 dashes out, but TSM has more firepower. They bring up the 3rd man and they get the kill.
Good job by TSM getting one back on that top side, and Impact without TP will be losing that full wave and a half or so. TSM also going to turn that into a Herald potentially, but Jojo is moving, and Vulcan just TP'd up here. It's Danny staying bot as that, you know, fasting Senna, so it's still the extra members up here for TSM, so it should be their Herald.
Yeah, the teleport from Vulcan seemed a little audacious coming up here when you still are outnumbered, still not able to contest them for that. So Vulcan's TP doesn't yield a lot here. TSM taking the Herald on that one, but Danny continues to farm bottom.
It could just be that he wanted to have enough threat up on that top side that Tactical needed to stay to buy more time for Danny on that bottom side. Danny does pick up a plate. It does get a little bit weird when you're playing Fasting Senna and you're picking up farm like this though, because it's actually going to turn off your support item. So you won't be able to actually earn gold for a bit, you know, from that support item if you're picking up too much of this farm. So it's not as big of a deal as it would normally be.
The one nice thing about it is it's solo XP for a little bit for Danny, who had fallen behind after that gank and then death. You can see him level 5 to Vulcan's level 7. And so, yeah, a little weird with how the support item works. But at the same time, at least Danny will hit 6 much faster now because that is a big power spike for Senna in teamfights if you start fighting over things like Dragon and whatnot.
Absolutely. I mean, and the gold is still super valuable, right? Don't get me wrong. You're going to be able to complete that support item at some point throughout the game. You always get that 1,000 gold. And he did get solo gold on a plate. So it is going to be him quite accelerated. And with that early pickaxe, I'm wondering if it is going to be him going Kraken. Like, we've been seeing a lot more lethality. But with the pickaxe, I do feel like this might just be a Kraken Senna.
We'll have to see. I think this is one of the games where you don't need the DPS. I forget which one it was earlier in the playoffs.
Kraken.
All right, it's Kraken Slayer.
Yeah.
It's a little surprising given that there's not that much tankiness on the side of TSM, and your comp has a fair amount of damage built into it.
I mean, I think he just feels like he's the only consistent DPS, right? Because it is Lee Sin, Renekton, Lissandra. He's maybe feeling like, yes, there's not like a turbo tank that I have to punch through, but we do need some sort of kind of form of consistent damage. Is Jojo gonna face check here?
Oh, TSM was waiting. They set the trap and they're going after Inspired, but it's EG who get the better of them.
Nice roam by EG there, ready to catch them out in the jungle. Yeah, they face check, but it was still a 3v3, and it felt like TSM did not want to commit that hard. Some members didn't. Spica went in, but Maple kind of stayed in the Raptor pit the entire time.
Well, and honestly, as soon as you see that there's other members of EG around, unless you can 100-0 delete the Lissandra, it's not the target. He has stopwatch and he has self-ult. He didn't even have to use it, so they weren't very close at actually taking him down. Still had that self-ult available. As Chime gonna have to get out of here, but we'll be able to do it no problem. So EG, realizes that, hey, there may be some members camping in this topside jungle. They move over there. Yes, Jojo does face check it, but he's got people behind him and he's very safe to do so.
All righty, 6-2, still a 2,500 gold lead for EG. Very, very strong early performance, largely off of the botched dive from TSM is where a huge chunk of that lead came from. So we've also already got a first item Kim Punk Chainsword there for Spica. Sometimes you see this item built, rushed very early on by bruisers. Before, earlier on, it was ridiculously overpowered for the price point. It was just so gold efficient, there was no reason not to. These days it's a bit more in line, but can still be very powerful early on against some of the healing that you'll see from like a Senna, that you'll see from like a Renekton.
Yeah, if there's a couple champions that are going to have that healing power, it's obviously great, given that your job is to usually 100-0 one person. So if you're ulting in on someone, the worst thing you want to see is a heal get popped, a heal from another character come in, and then suddenly there's 400 more health that you didn't think they would have.
Ooh, Vulcan has gobbled up Chime, trying to keep him locked down as Jojo makes his way down here to continue the fight. They go in, they find Chime, and they force both summoner spells out of tactical at the same time.
Really well played there. Jojo just waiting out the spell shield and then going for it onto tactical, forcing the cleanse with his W, I do believe, not even actually committing the ulti. But this vibe build is something we saw it from Santorin a lot. We saw it from Spica earlier in the season, on Xin as well as on Vi. And I do think it's still pretty powerful. It's not as OP as it had been, but the item is still quite gold efficient. And of course, it's going to be Blade the Rune King Rush on Renekton, the healing from Q. There's Gore Drinker as well as a bit of healing there on the Lee Sin. And of course, Danny is going to have quite a bit of healing himself.
A lot of good targets to apply it to, but unfortunately, EG is kind of running away with this game.
Yeah.
2,500 gold, 13 minutes in.
And one of the things that I mentioned in Champ Select is that there's no fallback here for TSM, really. I mean, sure, you can say, we're just going to play for late for Sivir, but like, it's not Sivir with an Enchanter, right? Vi, Aatrox, Ahri, Rakan do one thing. They go forward, right?
Yep.
And if you go forward and you lose that fight, it's very, very difficult. So I do think it's going to be a lot about, making sure that they can find picks. Like that is their only real recourse in this game, is if you can find those charms, if you can control vision, get the engages to try to get these individual scraps. Because when you're this far down this early, it's going to be kind of impossible to win even number fights.
Well, we've got just about 5 seconds left before those turret plates fall, so we'll be solidly into the mid game. I want to see EG continue looking for plays. I want to see EG to continue to make things happen with this momentum that they've got for themselves nice and early. FTX total gold on the left side of your screen. It's the junglers leading the way for both teams so far.
Yeah, Inspired 202 off to another great start. Had an incredible game too on that Sejuani with a unique and interesting build. Made the most of it now on the Lee Sin, has already influenced top lane matchup, helped save bot lane. Inspired having a much better series than that C9 one.
Absolutely, and we can see TSM 4 members down towards bot looking for impact. If he checked jungle, he could be in trouble, but the Q channel there had expired from Spica, so Impact knows they're in the area. He's just going to give this up. His team's already taken down that top lane tier 1, and it's just going to be a trade on either side.
Yeah, Impact should have seen at least 2 different character silhouettes in the fog in the jungle there, so he knows that at minimum he would be walking into a 1v2. He'll just have to watch the turret fall, trade it across the map. As you said, the gold lead continues to slowly but steadily increase for the side of Evil Geniuses, up to a little bit over 3,000 now, I think just about. There it is, 3.1. Next, Drake spawns in 5 seconds.
So what's interesting about the gold lead too is 2,500 of it is on support, which is not necessarily the most impactful kind of gold lead. It does mean there's a lot more HP you have to punch through, but it's not quite the same as a carry who's up that much. Danny being equal with Sivir is kind of actually the more surprising point in a sense, where you know the other support by farming is going to have the lead, but the fact that Danny at 2-1, picking up some of that solo gold, has put him in a position where he's a legitimate threat now.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I look at it a little bit differently. Like, I'm comparing Vulcan more with Tactical, right? You know, kind of because he is the farmer. And I do think in this case, it is going to be pretty valuable. Like you talked about earlier, he's not going to be that Ornn. Well, at this stage of the game, he kind of is,
yeah.
right? Like, he has a Bramble, he has Tabbies, and he already has his Mythic completed. So he's going to be ridiculously hard to actually punch through. They are very heavily physical damage. Ahri is not going to be able to focus down Tahm Kench in any sort of a reasonable winning fight.
Right.
So it is going to be incredibly hard to actually deal with that Tahm Kench. And this early on, when you're that far ahead, you can dive into that backline, but it's Maple looking for the TP play here, trying to find Impact.
All right, Impact's in a 1v2. Chime and Maple, they find a lot of CC and get about 60% of his health bar here very early. Impact with a slice onto Maple. Uses the dice to disengage a little bit further. Can he get away from this one? Has a flash. Not gonna use it. He knows there's no way out. TSM get the pick.
Slow played, but well played by TSM. They're kind of just using the range advantage to bully Renekton, who has no way to get on top of them if he's not gonna flash, and that's gonna still not work out that well for them. So they do lose the Rift Herald during that play. It was well done, though. Able to pick up a quick kill, and like you said, just ignore the Tahm Kench if he's the big Fed member of the enemy team.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, they weren't going to be able to really win the fight at the Herald anyway. They're too far down, so they take what they can get. They utilize the DP, find a kill there, and should be fairly happy about that. But Inspired just immediately drops the Herald mid. EG on the push here, and can threaten, as it's just Tactical and Chime for now. They're for sure going to get the crash. We'll see if they can get enough damage in on this tower to threaten an actual turret take, but it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, they got it low, but not low enough. So they have to back away. 3 TSM players hanging out here. Gold lead up to about 3,500. Oh, Spica. Oh, that's not where you wanted to be, buddy. Not at all. Tries to turn around, use the ulti as a bit of an escape mechanism. Tried to flash over the wall, but the flash wasn't great. Is it still enough to get him out? It is. The great escape from TSM.
I thought Spica was dead for sure. You saw a ton of abilities dropped there by EG, but Spica is able to kite it out, and very importantly, goes for a different build than you usually see from the Sunderer Vi. We've seen some people also go Turbo Chem Tank even. I believe it was Inspired who had done that, and people are more and more opting to try this kind of Tank Vi build.
Yeah, I mean, he's on Frostfire Gauntlet, right? And, you know, having that early Mythic here gives him the survivability. That was actually a lot committed, right? You know, that was the ultimate there from Jojo. That was a flash from a Vulcan. Yes, he has to use his own flash to get out, but very well done in what was essentially a 1v3, almost a 1v4 there for Spica. Will survive. He's, of course, with this build, not going to have nearly the same kind of burst in that backline.
Right.
But I think he's seeing his job as just set up and then allow the Aatrox and the Ahri to really be the ones that slam it home.
Interesting to also note, sometimes the pairing with a champion like Vi that has point and click leads us into seeing those more damage-heavy Ahri builds. Abadaga on 100 Thieves is a big proponent of this, like whenever you see them playing the Vi or something like that, he's going to have the Luden's Echo, he's going to have the Sorcerer's Shoes, but not from Maple. Maple continuing to just go for Everfrost, cooldown boots. Ooh. Solo getting caught out a little bit here. Inspired gets the positioning to land the kick. They still can't kill him, and now Spica's ready to turn it around. Danny's ult comes in from across the map. TP's gonna show up here too. Jojo wants to chase after him, but he can't do it. Honestly, really good stuff from TSM. Disengaging on this one. Everfrost being thrown back and forth. I got one, you got one, everybody's got an Everfrost. Nobody locked down, nobody dead.
All that CC, and they both get out alive at the end of it. Well done by Solo, getting a nice Gore Drinker off to kind of stay alive and buy enough time for Spica to get in there and force them back. TSM might not be done, though. Try to find a way into the river and find someone in rotation, but Danny and Vulcan had already made it back to mid lane.
Yeah, going to be able to hold on in mid lane there. And no heal cut from Impact or Inspired, and that really is the big difference there. You pop the Aatrox ulti, you know, that's amping the Gore Drinker and everything, and now Impact here could be in trouble. Jojo, do you even want this? They're going to TP in.
He does. He goes over the wall, but remember, Renekton has no ulti. They're going to stand and fight without it, as Solo's now going to be taking a lot of the damage, and Jojo goes into a stopwatch. He's going to stay alive. 2 already dead. EG picked a good fight.
So many ults have been burned in the previous engage. Like you said, Renekton no ult, but Aatrox critically as well. No ultimate, no massive extra increased self-healing, so they're actually able to focus him down and kill him.
20-minute Baron, they're just going to start this up.
This is huge. If they're able to get away with this, the whole game just becomes an avalanche that TSM has to survive. They got 3 players here to try to stop him. Baron's at half HP. They land the charm onto Inspired. Chime is ready to go in. Inspired is nearly dead. Inspired heals through a smite, but now it's not ready to secure the objective. Inspired and the rest of EG gotta try to get away. Tactical's gonna be jumped on. A shutdown. They'll trade 1 for 1. EG continues to retreat as TSM's ready to punish, and Solo's wings spread wide. Maple wants to look for an angle here too, but Impact just wants to get away.
Not able to actually find anyone despite Solo TPing in. They will move this pressure down into the Baron to try and grab that one. Nice stop by Tactical. Yes, he died at the tail end of it, but it was mostly his damage as well as Chime flying in there that allowed them to get Inspired low.
TSM, though, very low. Look at Solo, look at Chime. No ultimates available, so EG just coming back in here. They have the sustain with this Senna, and it's likely to be their dragon here. Quite an early 3rd dragon. They're moving towards this potential Cloud Soul, which is really nice for a number of the members on this game. You know, the Aatrox is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful for the Renekton as well. Here it is one more time, just a 20-minute Baron start trying to pull them in, looking for this turn. The poke onto Inspire gets him incredibly low, forces out that smite, and then as he's retreating around, Tactical kind of gets baited forward here to step in and try to take down Inspire, but Danny still has the heal, I believe it is? Yeah, there's the heal that does get popped. They go up, they are able to knock down Tactical. Tactical, though, getting that kill and a shutdown onto Vulcan, who was charmed up by Maple and couldn't get off the Grayskin.
Yeah, you can just see how badly they wanted this last kill too, chasing in here. Solo and everyone's just kind of ignoring Jojopyun, trying to kite forward, but not actually able to get onto Danny or Inspire, the 2 low members. And because they get so chunked out during this portion of the chase down sequence, it allowed TSM to kind of come back at full health and grab that dragon.
Okay, that was a pretty wild sequence of events, from the fight that we didn't know if EG should have took it, to going to the Baron, which we don't know if EG should have attempted, to the fight afterwards, to the dragon. That was something, man. We're getting a spicy game number 3 here, but it's still a game number 3 that very much favors Evil Genius.
Yeah, massively favoring EG here. And I think the momentum will swing heavily into their favor. You have this super, super long pause. They come out, they stomp this game. This would put them to match point if they're able to close it out. So we'll see if TSM can get a foot into this one. You know, falling further and further down. It is 4K in the lead. It is 3.5 minutes until Cloud Soul here for EG.
And Inspired is keeping up kind of level of performance for game 2, but for Danny having a better time, obviously the 1 death was a big commitment by TSM that kind of gave the goal lead to EG's favor, and he was someone who I think a lot of people were like psychoanalyzing between the games. There were some clips of people couldn't tell if he was tilted or not. Danny always has a bit of a placid look where he's not super high or super low at any moment. I think he looked just like...
He's got a poker face.
He's got a poker face for sure. So people were trying to get a read on him, couldn't tell, but obviously looking pretty good in this game.
Yeah, playing really well. He's already up to 78 stacks on the Senna. So the range definitely amping up here. Going rapid fire second, is going for a high DPS build. You can see Jojo going in for a pretty high DPS build himself, you know, going for the Shadow Flame second alongside that Everfrost. He is not on CDR boots, he's on Spell Pen. It doesn't mean the Zonius is going to be quite delayed, and he has already used his stopwatch, so he will be vulnerable on the way in. You know, a lot of times in those situations, it does make the choice more difficult then. Are you going to self-ult? Or are you going to ult aggressively if you're diving in that backline?
Right.
Because you don't have the ability to use that aggressive ult and then stasis to keep yourself alive.
The other thing is they only have heal cut, on Vulcan, and honestly, most of the people are not going to be hitting him. Solo and Spica and whatnot are trying to be going around him. So Ahri and Solo do have a fair amount of self-healing in their sustain. If Ahri gets a kill, the amount of health she gets back from Essence Theft, I think it's called, is actually pretty substantial. So not the highest priority champions in the game to want to necessarily screw your build up to get it early, like on Danny or something. I don't think you would want to do that, but it does mean that in one of these team fights, you do have some potential for Solo to do a lot of drain tanking.
Yeah, I think especially for Aatrox. I think Aatrox is the main one you might have to worry about. You know, if he can get in the middle of the team, and really make something happen. But I think they feel that they have so much CC and burst at this point in the game that they're less concerned about that. We'll see if that does end up being true or not. And if someone does eventually pick up a little bit of anti-heal, you know, I wouldn't be shocked to see someone like Danny after he has the rapid fire, maybe get an Executioner's, you know, just sit on that. But getting to the 2 items is a pretty big deal for him. And he's not actually playing a farming Senna, right? So his gold income is slowed down quite a lot. So yeah, I agree. It makes sense that he didn't necessarily rush towards it.
Well, I've got my eyes on Inspired here in about 75 seconds when that Drake spawns. I expect him to probably be the initiator, the playmaker. You've talked about the stopwatch being broken for Jojo, so it's a little bit more risky for him to go in. But Inspired, he's not afraid to make these plays. He's not afraid to go in for the setup kick that really opens up the team fight. He's got a stopwatch of his own, so he can sort of throw himself into that. Not that big of a deal.
It's going to be important then for TSM to keep up their vision control to make sure that Inspired does not find this great flank on a kick. Not everyone can go in the front door like Closer can. But so this is something TSM has done a little bit better this game. They fell out of control in game 2 pretty quickly and then struggled with vision the entire rest of the game, despite the fact that some of those fights were close. Here, you can see pretty good vision in the top half of the river in case there's a Baron sneak attempt, but also still having some vision control in the bot river as well. So TSM not that blind, moving around the map right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have a pretty good amount of wards. You know, they have a scuttle here. They have this ward. They have a number of wards, you know, up in that Baron area. No kind of offensive wards, really. Nothing on the enemy side of the map, but they are potentially looking for a pick here on Impact. And Impact, you know, very good read. Again, you've seen this all career long for him, where he does kind of have that sense that they are coming. We see that TSM is missing off the map. He knows he is the area that could be attacked.
And when you say all career long, that's one of those subjective statements that could be different depending on who you're talking about. We're talking about a decade here for this guy, right? Like, this is a storied career. So I'm excited to see where that they continue to apply pressure, how they can continue to move this game
just give him
forward.
Soul for free?
Yeah, it looks like TSM's just not even going to contest it. Cloud Soul will go over to EG. Isaac, you already mentioned how this can synergize really well with a lot of champions in this game. Renekton's going to have that massive movement speed boost when he activates Dominus. And Tahm Kench, gobble, gobble, run away. Like, that's scary stuff.
There's a lot of conversation in recent weeks about Cloud Soul and its effectiveness. And while you can debate if it's good or not, it's still a question of, is it worth giving away for absolutely free? They did grab the turret up in the top side to try and bring the gold lead back a little bit more in their favor, but I don't think TSM have such an insane scaling advantage that you can just give power away uncontested.
I don't think they have any scaling advantage, to be honest with you. I mean, I'll play devil's advocate. I think that the reasoning that TSM would give you is that we can't win the fight anyway. So if you can't win the fight anyway, going there and dying doesn't do you any good, right? And if that is your read, I can understand it. But at a certain point, you obviously have to kind of say, all right, too much is you know, like going to be, we can't give this up, right? And you kind of have to be able to make that read. They may feel that they do have a scaling advantage with the Sivir, but I do think it's tough to play out.
As you just saw on your screen there, Infinity Edge just completed first Sivir. And so if you're looking at that fight and saying, we want the third item on Sivir, it is a pretty massive power spike. I can understand then saying give away the soul point. But to what we were just saying, you know, at some point you do have to pull the trigger and actually contest something.
Oh, there was an immediate kick coming out from Inspired as Spica vault broke forward. Jojo just gets rooted up. He can't go any further.
And at the end of the day, you know, I do think that there's a lot of discussion about Cloud Soul, right? It kind of gets memed, and then people are like, hey, it's actually kind of good.
It's not Clown Soul. How dare you?
I would say I do think that the way I look at it is, even if you're just considering like flat move speed and you're ignoring the actual like ultimate proc, which is more situational, move speed is just incredibly valuable in League of Legends, right? There's a reason that pro players prioritize tier 2 boots all the time, because if you're controlling your character incredibly well, move speed is very, very valuable for kiting out, for dodging skill shots, for chasing down. Cloud Soul is going to give a lot of value. Maybe it's not as much as a lot of the other souls, which are just kind of like guaranteed value. They're, you know,
I do damage.
Exactly, or I take less damage because I have this Earth Shield, right? Like whatever. But it is still really, really nice, and with the lead that EG already had, it puts them in a massive, massive advantage.
Okay, so what are we expecting EG to do here then? How quickly do they want to go for a Baron? How much pressure should they be putting on TSM? Because it seems like everything is in their control, so surely there must be a plan to keep this pressure moving forward and choke them out.
I mean, they can definitely start setting up now for Baron pressure. They have pretty good front line, assuming Vulcan's there, pretty good damage, and I think this is one of the other advantages of the Kraken Slayer build, is you have substantially more Baron threat, as well as the fact that you have the healing from Senna to stay topped up. So Baron dances are something that EG's comp does extremely well. Their turn should be pretty good if Jojo is off on the flank and is able to find a way in there. So I definitely think that there's no reason to sit around and not start this dance up.
I mean, they're just way stronger than their opponents right now, right? Like, they have most of their key items. So I do think they're going to be happy to just start it and look for any sort of a fight. Like, EG just needs to keep showing up for every single objective and looking to scrap. And right now they're going to use the blue buff as just that. Because they know that they're stronger in the 5v5.
And it might be a minor thing, but whenever I see an AD champion building towards Guardian Angel like Inspired right now with his stopwatch and his BF sword, I want to see him go in and fight and use that stopwatch before it completes. Spica popping a stopwatch of his own, staying alive as Vulcan goes over the wall. Solo's going to be rooted up now. Inspired zoning away 3. Solo still the target, locked up by Jojo. Can't flash out. EG 1-0.
Easy kill for EG there, just initially locking down Spica, bait Solo in to try and buy space, so they're able to focus him down. Now without Solo available, it's going to be very hard for TSM to stop this Baron. Only Spica's ultimate available.
And Jojo has TP. He's going to go back to base, and he could look for a potential TP flank coming through here. Spica has a long run out from base, and we don't have eyes on where Jojo could be coming in. Neither does TSM.
Okay, EG. Are they going to stick on the Baron? No, they're turning into the fight instead. Tactical tries to get away. Chime wants to protect him. Vulcan and Danny both on the hunt as Maple tries to get away from the rest of Evil Geniuses. Danny continuing to find the long-range damage. The ulti will not hit the mark. Tactical with a flash out, just trying to kite away from these guys. He survives with 100 HP. And he will not drop yet. EG's not done. Inspired's coming around from behind. A TP shows up. Sonic Wave won't hit the mark, but now Spica's in some trouble again. Jojo gobbled up and kept safe as Danny puts a bullet in Spica's back. Solo finds himself living up to his name in the middle of everybody, and I don't think he's sticking around much longer. Impact on a killing spree, and TSM lose everybody except the support.
EG crushing TSM in this third game here, chasing them across the map from the Baron to the tier 2 bot lane, diving them there, asserting their dominance and letting TSM know in no uncertain terms, this game is over.
There's nowhere safe for TSM. They'll follow you to the edges of the rift. They go back to Baron. Gonna grab this one up now. Probably no contest coming in from TSM. Spica dead for 5 more seconds. And here you go, just like Azael was saying, starts out basically at the enemy team red buff. Behind the wall, Maple is the first one jumped on and kind of locked in place.
Yeah, this is just wild. You know, he's going to be able to land the root. It was a good charm there, you know, from Maple, but the Everfrost comes through, Impact's coming in. He tries his best to kite it out, but no ulti available for Maple, and there's just no real way away. And this is one of those situations where Cloud Soul is making a difference because they have that flat move speed. They're just constantly catching back up over and over and over. And back to live, it is EG with the Baron. Double GA just completed for EG, by the way, if it wasn't already bad enough.
And these timers are syncing up so good for EG because they get the Baron, they get to recall, they're back out onto the map, and now in 20 seconds, the Elder comes alive. They're perfectly set up to control this, be in possession of both super buffs at the same time, and end the game with it.
I like what TSM's doing in terms of just trying to find an angle into the river through bot lane while they have time to do it. Like you said, Elder coming up, they know this is the fight that they just kind of have to flip. Maybe you get the soul or the Elder buff, and then you're able to start finishing people off with it. So I like what they're trying to do here in posture, but
look at Inspired, he's already behind them.
Inspired's looking for it. Impact goes over the wall. They lock down Solo. World ender, but is his world going to end instead? Impact looking to go after Tactical as Inspired's already unstoppable. They got rid of one. Spica loses Guardian Angel. Now they're just going to be able to corpse camp him as Tactical is another body in the grave. Vulcan gets the kill credit on Spica, and it's 3-0 for EG.
And Impact's just TPing mid. They don't even need the Elder. They're just trying to set up to potentially end the game right here. Danny, nice sidestep on that charm. He's going to finish off Maple, and the push is on here. They're going to at least get one in hit, but it's 50 seconds on Maple. That could be it.
It's so long. It's going to be 30 seconds before any of them are back alive. 2 fights in a row where only Chime is left standing by the time it's done. Evil Geniuses can walk this one in. Solo's not coming back for another 12 seconds. And the Nexus turrets are simply not built sturdy enough to buy that time. EG come in swinging for game number 3, and they're moving on to match point.
Even with over an hour pause, EG keep their momentum out. They do not stall out. They quickly grab control of this game and maintain it the entire way through. It is the cleanest game thus far this series. There was really no moment here where it felt like TSM had a strong foothold in this game.
Yeah, and honestly, this is just a very different look from TSM, even from drafting, because I did think in the previous 2 games, I felt like they had kind of a scaling edge, that they were going to win out. You know, if EG weren't able to close out the game, there wasn't that same level of pressure on EG in this game, and they got ahead early. So once they got ahead early, it felt like the game was so heavily in their favor. You know, game 1, it was a monster scaling advantage. Game 2, I still felt like with the Swain and the Sivir, you had that worry in the back of your mind, you know, for EG. Are they going to be able to close this one out? But it's back to the drawing board now for TSM, as it's going to be double match point.
And hey, the Senna TK looked good. It worked good. You're talking about the importance of comfort. Whether or not you're in a tilting situation with pauses, whatever, if your champ pool is under attack, if they're saying, okay, Danny's the angle we got to go for, this is the big red weak point on the boss, it's his champion pool, well, sorry, we're playing on hard mode now. We're just disabling that big red weak point, and he's going to play this champion that he's done really well on in the past.
I love Vulcan coming up and throwing the timeout at the camera on the way there.
I didn't notice
Nice
that.
meme game out of Vulcan there. But yeah, to the point about Danny, it is true that people have been talking about champ pool issues, but I think going to the Senna, not immediately just jumping to an immediately early game aggressive champion, because he has these other things in his back pocket. Even things like MF, Seraphine, like he does have actually a pretty deep champion pool, even if it is not just the current meta that is aggressive early.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of like on a different page than I think some other people are on this, where I don't think not playing the meta means you have a champion pool issue, right? As long as you have answers for all situations, I think there is no issue. I don't think it has been proven yet that Danny doesn't have an answer for all situations, because as you're saying, he has answers. They're just not the ones that are really commonly used today. But as long as he's playing well, I think in a lot of cases, it can be an advantage because teams are less prepared for those picks.
Exactly. They don't know what's coming. They're not used to playing against it. But hey, even